Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest grew up in Tampa, Florida, prior to living in New York City for 7 years, and she currently resides in Colorado, which is also where she accomplished her bucket list goal of stepping on stage for the first time in 2021, where she won the novice overall. After 7 regional shows and 3 pro qualifiers, she earned her pro card at NPC Universe before making her pro debut at the Tampa Pro, where she locked in a top 10 finish. That's a massive accomplishment. She works full-time in public relations and marketing while also being a coach to competitors and lifestyle clients. Welcome to the show, Keria Orsatti. How are you doing?
Hi, Celeste. It's so exciting to be here. It's honestly surreal, but I am doing great today.
Yay! I'm so happy that you're here too. And it's honestly my pleasure to be speaking with you. And I gotta ask if there's anything you do, think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Totally. So I will say I don't really have a ton of like bad nerves or jitters before I hit the stage. It's honestly so much fun for me. I honestly just say, Lord, thank you so much for getting me to this point. It's honestly such a privilege to be able to step on stage. And then I just say, like, okay, go out there and kill it. And then I just go and perform.
That's awesome. Do you get nerves like the day of or the day before, or are you just like no nerves at all going into a show?
So I would say on like, I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I am so tired on the actual show day. I know it's probably bad, but sometimes I don't even feel anything. But then right before I step on stage, I have the like, oh, it's finally here. It's yay. It's exciting.
Mhm.
And so I just have the good nerves that kind of help me to feel like, okay, now like perform, feel the music, and kind of just go and do what you've been practicing for like months.
Yeah, you know what? I've learned that the less I practice backstage, actually the better I do on stage too. Like I
Yeah.
think it's most the show I did on Saturday, I did my routine maybe one time backstage barely. And I just was like, I stood in line and I was like, and I didn't watch anyone before me because that always messes with my head. I found a friend in the crowd and I was just like looking at them and I was like, okay, like that I'm grounded in this moment. I'm looking backstage. I'm like, everything's fine. Went out there and I think, for me, I get nervous actually a couple days before and like the day, like not like the day before, I'm like, oh my gosh, like athlete check-ins, but then I'm barely good myself. My body seems to start getting just shaky from it being so cold backstage, but
Yeah,
uh,
that part.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's so awful for getting a pump. I'm like, dang, like you guys got to do this to us.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I totally hear you on like you almost don't want to over practice backstage because you're starting to do that out of anxiety. I definitely did that. I would say my second national show because I'm like, oh man, like when you don't feel ready, you start to like overdo it. And so if you kind of go in knowing that you've done everything that you can, there's really nothing left to do. So yeah, practicing a few times, but like not kind of going into the place where you're doing it out of fear anymore.
Mhm.
I would definitely say like is why I wouldn't want to over practice.
That's a really great way of looking at it, actually. Like, am I practicing out of fear and anxiety, or am I practicing because, like, I genuinely just like in the flow and
Yeah,
I want to?
yeah, exactly.
So, you were a multi-sport athlete before you got into competing, and your brother's also a professional athlete. He's a professional baseball player. So, was your goal to also become a professional athlete? And if
Um,
so, did you think it'd be bodybuilding?
yeah, so no, not for me personally. I will say I came from a very athletic family. Dad was a coach. My brother plays pro baseball. A lot of my siblings are like either went to college on like a track scholarship or a volleyball scholarship. So to be honest, I was like the odd one out and not pursuing it beyond high school. But I did grow up like my whole life playing tennis, played softball, got into dance as well, with color guard. So very active growing up for sure. I just honestly was like, I'm competitive internally, but I can't deal with like external pressures. Like I think that to go to that next level, you have to be able to deal with external pressures really well. And that could be tough. And I think that probably pro athletes, like they kind of deal with that behind the scenes more than anyone probably knows.
What are some of the external pressures that come to mind for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's like parental expectations, coach expectations. You know, you're starting to get into like numbers and stats and um kind of even going back to like practicing out of fear over practicing out of like the love and and being like and loving the performance. It's like you're practicing because you're making sure you don't make a mistake. And I think that's when it starts to not become fun anymore.
Sure. Yeah, there's so much pressure that can come with that. And I mean, obviously for you, you are now a professional in competing. Have you ever felt some of that pressure or like felt deterred in your journey as a result of any pressure?
Honestly, no. I feel like this has truly all been for me. I wanted to I never thought that I would want to get a pro card, to be honest. This again was a bucket list. I remember seeing I think it's Yeshaira Robles, how you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Um, I saw her picture on Pinterest. I was like, what is this? Like, I love the sparkly suit. She had so much energy, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember this and like kind of figure out what it is she's doing because maybe I'll do this as a bucket list thing. I like to stay active. I still work out. And yeah, and before I turned 30, I was like, I definitely want to step on stage. And I remembered Yashira. And yeah, what I will say that like becoming a pro athlete in the sport didn't really become a reality, I think, until after I got the feedback that like, hey, like you actually have like potential. And it's like, okay, maybe this is something to kind of be a competitive outlet for me. So
Were you looking for a competitive outlet?
I think that I needed a goal. Like, I think a lot of people step on stage because they see it as like a goal that they can strive for and help to kind of tailor their training. And I was like, you know, I need that, but I don't know if I necessarily needed to be extremely competitive with it. I think that came as he started to fall in love with the
Yeah.
sport as he did it. So,
For sure. And honestly, like something that really stood out to me was how amazing you did at all your regional shows. And in 2022, you placed second at one before going on to your first national show where you placed 16th. Then a year later, at the same national show, you got 16th, but you didn't give up. And the following year, you turned pro with a first place finish. Now, this is something very encouraging for someone like me who has placed 16th at both of the national shows she's done, has one coming up, just placed fourth at a regional show and has another regional show coming up. Like, how do you explain that progression? And what did you do to go from 16th to first?
yeah. 100%. I definitely not a linear journey. I think a lot of girls like they go into the national show and they get like third or fourth, and then they're like, okay, it gets the itch going, and then they're like, I have to come and bring it next year. For me, my first national show, honestly, I did it to have fun, and I know everyone says not to do that, but I was on a team where there were a lot of people going. I knew some girls that I connected with on Instagram, and they were going like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much fun."
That's fun.
Opposite of what you hear these days.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
so
it's like
true.
it was for the experience. I mean, these are memories for life, and if it was all based off of just like a placing, like you're gonna rob yourself of some of those experiences. And so that first time I was like, I just want to go and get a taste, rip the band-aid off of what a national level show looks like, because I think that we also get a little jaded at the regional level of like what it means to be competitive. And honestly, that was eye-opening. I was like, holy cow, these girls are huge.
Right.
Um, yes,
They're
they have a lot.
standing up and their glutes are like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. I'm like, I could sit a whole cup of coffee on their glutes. But
literally.
so I was like, it was just it was a good reality check of
Yeah.
what it was going to take if I wanted to actually come back and do this for real. And I was very like fortunate in that my coach she was supportive in my decision to just to do it and know that I wasn't coming out with a pro card. But she was like, go ahead and experience it. You can get, kind of understand what it's about and then make a decision from there whether or not that's something you want to strive for. So I know that everyone says like, yeah, don't go to the national level if you're just there to have fun. Because I mean, it is expensive for sure, but I made it a whole like vacation. Like it was Vegas. I mean, it's like such a great experience. So I know that that might go against what some people say, but I say like, hey, if you want to, just do it.
I don't disagree with you, actually. I think getting the national show experience prior to being ready, if you want to say that. Some people don't think they're ready and they end up winning. But,
Yeah.
like I think that actually gives so much perspective, like you said, and it's about the experience you make of it. Like I can think about Pittsburgh, North Americans. That was my favorite show because my sister came. We had so much fun in Pittsburgh after. I had a great time backstage with all the women. Like I really like I look back and I'm like, that was so great. Like I loved it and I don't regret it. And I did USA's too as my like experience a national stage show. And that was also so much fun. So I'm with you on that. Now, of course, financially, doing it for fun over and over again, it's a different story. So,
Yes.
how did you go from that like 16th and then 16th again? How did that feel to come back and still be in that spot?
Totally. I will say the second time it was hard. And I know we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but it's like it's kind of okay to feel disappointed, to feel angry. I think I was like that season was a little rough at the end there because I do remember even the show right before I felt like I brought my best and didn't get the placing that I thought that I wanted. And just being real, it was in my feels. I don't really show that externally, but I was like, okay, like I'm supposed to be going to my national show to get my pro card
Exactly.
in 2 weeks, and this feedback is not really putting me in a good headspace going into that show. So, I would say that I felt all the things, felt a little upset, angry, but kind of game planned with my coach, and honestly, my coach at the time was amazing, and that at the time, my feedback was like, you're, you either need to lose muscle in your legs or move up to wellness. And so knowing I had 2 weeks, I'm like, I have 2 weeks to correct this going into nationals. My coach, we literally spent like 3 hours at our house one day just changing my whole routine so that I could try and make my legs look a little bit more streamlined going into that national show. Um, I think that looking back, it was definitely a conditioning thing. I went into the national show and got 16th place, and I definitely was disappointed because I grinded, I practiced, and I at least thought I would place. Like even if it was like second call outs or even like that was a huge class. I think there were like 5 or 6 call outs. And I thought at least like within 3 rounds, but then to keep hearing the next group of girls go, the next group of girls go, and I was like, ah, shit. Like, sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like, okay, I did not bring it this time. So I was a bit disappointed going off stage.
Oh, for sure. And I'm glad that you shared that because that is the reality for so many of us. And it's difficult to talk about that because you want to be grounded in gratitude and perseverance, but also like those things can exist at the same time as
Yeah.
disappointment. And I think that's one of the things when you go to a regional show right before a national show and you don't place at the regional show, or maybe you don't place how you expected, it can be like a punch to the gut. Like it can really make you question, like, well, what's the point of me even going to the
Mhm.
national show? But you didn't give up. You kept going, and I know how it feels to like have that doubt. Like I've been there, I've done that. How did you overcome it to then come back and eventually become an IFBB pro and win first place? That's a huge jump.
Yeah, if there was any silver lining of coming out of that national show was I got to speak to Sandy directly because I had in my head, oh my goodness, I'm too big for bikini in my legs. Like I can't, I'm not going to be able to ever place well because I'm not balanced. And I went backstage and I was like, Sandy, like I just have one question. I know I'm 16th place. Like, can you just let me know if I'm in the right division? And she's like, can you show me some pictures? And so I pulled up the show pictures because they were posted almost immediately. And she's like, "No, you're balanced." She's like, "You just aren't you aren't conditioned." So I like appreciated the realness, but also it was like such a relief to know, okay, like I'm still in the right division. I love wellness, like don't get me wrong, and I honestly like I love the training my legs, but I don't feel called to put on that much muscle in my legs. Like I don't think I want to walk around like that naturally. So it was good to know that, okay, I can still do well in bikini. And so it was just making a decision after that, whether like what my game plan was going to be.
That is a really big deal because you can be told by a judge, like, hey, you may consider moving up or you may consider moving down. I know there's a lot of women right now in bikini who are like, they're being told try fit model. And some of them are disappointed because they've been working so hard for bikini. And then there's also like this other problem where it's like you're too big for fit model, you're too small for bikini. And you had experienced like people telling you maybe consider wellness, but then to hear from Sandy, like, no, you just need more conditioning, that's a really exciting thing to hear. So, what did you do to bring that better package?
Yeah. And honestly, I decided that I'm okay, this is probably my last serious year of trying to get my pro card, at least for a while.
Why was that?
So I just knew that I was kind of in a stage of life where like I'm considering starting a family. Where I work in corporate America, it's tough out here trying to, you know, prep and also like do well at your job. And there's just like other goals that I have as a part of my life that I felt, hey, this isn't going to really allow me to bring my best to other areas of my life if I'm trying to strive for a pro card. So I just was like, this is my last year. Okay, what am I gonna do? I did decide to switch coaches at that time, and that's when I started with Team Atlas. I had just kind of seen that a lot of his athletes did very well. He just has like a great attention to detail and eye for bikini. And so I was like, let me give it one more shot and let me just kind of go all in and try a new coach and see what would happen.
Amazing. And what was different about that prep compared to previous preps?
Yeah, so I started with him like last September, early September, before, sorry, 2023 September, before going into like the prep. And um, obviously he just knows very well like what exercises you should be doing to help grow. He has like a very good eye for like, hey, are you pushing? And so you send him videos and honestly, just my training was a lot more intense that off season. So I put on quite a bit of muscle. Um, I would say that the actual prep itself was not easy. So it was definitely a push, and it just also made me realize, okay, this is what it might take for me and my body to get conditioned.
Do you think that some people have unrealistic expectations and as far as what the criteria is and what it really requires to be successful or even more realistic in their journey?
100%. Like that prep made me realize, oh, I didn't know what it would take.
Yeah.
Just being honest. I also started like in the middle of that prep to have like some weird like health issues. I think it was just honestly 3 years of prep over and over again. My thyroid was just getting down regulated. And so did hit a point where I somewhat stopped responding and started working with a naturopath to help me um, bring my thyroid up to be able to finish the prep. Um, but honestly, getting that lean, especially the level of leanness I was going into my pro debut, woo, it's like one of those, it's a different level of lean when you look back and you don't like it. So you
100%.
don't wish to be that lean again.
Oh, for sure. Like in the moments, you're like excited about the progress you're making because you know it's what they want for the stage. But like in retrospect, you're like, I like my curves and my muscles and fullness.
Yep. I think that like a lot of bikini girls will probably say, oh, that like 8 week to 10 week out mark is like where you feel your best. Like you can still perform a little bit, but you're a little bit tighter. You have got the abs. That like going into universe leanness, the prep goggles, like all the things that come with being that lean, it's really not fun. But then it was very, very much eye-opening to see like, okay, this is what it took to get my pro card. This is what it took to place at the pro level. It definitely makes you realize the commitment that you need. And that's also another reason why I'm taking a little bit of time because I'm like,
Mhm.
to jump right back into that, I'm like, I'm not ready.
Yeah. Was there anything you had to do differently that you even like questioned or were uncomfortable with? Like maybe even questioned if this is something you wanted to commit to?
In the moment, it was just, I think that we just have blinders on, and we just like kind of do it. I definitely, my cardio got very high. It's just like, I think everyone has um their cross to bear, I guess, in prep. Like some girls, they can get lean with nothing. They're like eating 3,000 calories. And I'm like, I am not one of them. And I'm also not one of them that's gonna stay 10 pounds up after show. But for me, I'm like, I can definitely build muscle well, but the getting lean part is a little tough. So I just know that, hey, like my struggle is gonna be that push and it's gonna take literally not a gram off. It's gonna take like hitting all your cardio. So it was definitely a push in those last few weeks to get there.
What was your go-to cardio?
Stairmasters, girl.
Really?
Yeah. I need
Dang.
the heart rate up.
Yeah, anything you could to get it up. That
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
Wow. How many minutes would you be going? I bet it was so much.
I got up to 120, just being
On
completely
the
on
Stairmaster?
the Stairmasters twice a day, 60 in the morning, 60 at night. Or if I could get my heart rate up, I would do the treadmill incline, but like I always just try to do like a heart rate of 130 or above. So sometimes I just would not want to budge on this treadmill, and I'm like, I am not about to run right now. I'd get off, take go to the gym because I do have a treadmill in my house that's convenient, so I could do it at night. But yeah, those were dark times.
Yeah, no, I hear
uh,
you.
we I made it through. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I get you. I really do. Sometimes I look back on preps. Right now I'm in the thick of it, so I'm like, meh. But then I look back. I know I'm gonna look back and be like, how did I
How
do?
did I do that? Yeah, yeah. I see people prepping, like I saw your stage pics, I'm like, oh, it'd be so fun. And then I'm like, oh, I do not miss that, that time.
Oh, it's too relatable. And then you said that like you knew kind of going into the season that it'd probably be your last real attempt to go pro. And you ended up not just going pro, but also placing 10th at the Tampa Pro. That's a huge accomplishment. But tell us more about like how the mindset that this was your last run at it affected maybe your approach, your mindset throughout that process.
Yeah. I do know that even though I definitely felt like I was bringing my best package into the season, it still wasn't easy because my warm-up show, I didn't do as well as I thought I would. I came in second. So I earned my pro card without ever getting an overall, which I know happens, but it was just one of those like I kind of
You
wanted
wanted
to.
it.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
wanted it. I definitely still the conditioning was tricky for me going to that first show. And there was even like after that, I like overate after the show. So that was something where I like kind of even set myself back a little bit, like just being
Yeah.
honest. And so I even went into the next few weeks of grind to universe having I was gonna go to junior nats, but there's no way I was gonna be ready because I should have been like completely on it the day after when the day after I was like a little loose. So decided not to do junior nats and then went to Universe. So, there's a little bit of that, like, oh, I wasn't my best. Like, I didn't like nail it right after that before I went into Universe. So, I also was kind of thinking, well, if I don't get this one, USA is next. I honestly was literally in my head, like, I need to plan for USA. It's like, I need to take the time off. Like, I didn't think it was going to happen at Universe. I was just like so in my head about the conditioning. Um, and it happened. So that was like honestly a shock. Like it was a shock. Um, but I will say that like it was not a smooth ride. I didn't go in like nailing everything every single time, getting into, to my pro card. It was definitely ups and downs. Definitely some disappointments in the beginning of the season. And like honestly, I was shocked at Universe.
When you got your pro card, you were like, how did I get this? Like
Yeah.
you didn't expect it at all.
I especially I think, it's like when you come off a regional show where you didn't bring your best, you really are jaded. And I remember going to the middle and then not moving. I was immediately like, they're gonna move me out. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, it's just you just know. And everyone around you is moving, and you're like, holy, like, is this really happening right now? I remember like really truly being shocked because I'm like, okay, they're gonna call my number, and they just didn't. And so that was really fun because it really was like, oh wow, like it is you. Like, so that
Did
was
you know going into finals that you were getting your
yeah.
pro? Yeah.
When I got off stage, I honestly was like so shocked. And then I just like ran to find my husband. I was like
Oh,
sprinting. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
was so happy.
He was. Yeah. I think even for him, he was just like, holy crap. Like,
They
he
did it.
yeah, like I also think I'm like, they are spouses or significant others and family. Sometimes they don't really know what's happening, but I think he was just like, oh, they didn't move her. She was in the middle. And so it was like, he was like, wow, like this is exciting. So it was a really cool moment.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's different when your spouse or your family isn't as like invested in the sport as you. Like maybe they don't understand it um as much, but just knowing they're happy for you regardless is so cool. And that's such an amazing moment that you had, especially because you didn't necessarily expect it. You had some difficulties after the regional show that you did. You were even thinking I'll probably have to do USA's. But something that I wanted to ask you about was just you had gotten diagnosed with an anxiety disorder during that prep too. How did that affect you, affect your life? What even led you to seek help when you were preparing for your pro debut after that?
Yeah, vulnerable topic for sure, because it's something that I think I didn't know what was going on during the time, and it's something I've been working through for the last like year or two. I think it just got a name during that prep, and so listen, it could have been like brought on by some of the stress of work coupled with like prep. Like if I'm just being completely honest, and I remember even before prep had even started, I had like a panic attack, and I didn't know at the time what was happening. You just think you're dying. And it had happened years ago, my first one. Didn't think anything of it because I got through it, but then it would kind of start to come up every so often. And when for some reason within the last like 2 years, they've become more frequent. And I truly was like, I don't know what's going on. Am I having a health, it starts like health anxiety? Is there or some sort of there's something wrong with me?
Mm.
And I had even taken myself to the emergency room. Because I was just, I don't know what's going on. And they'd be like, yeah, nothing's wrong. You want an IV? I'm like, cool, like $1,000 IV later. Like, what's going on? And I, this last year during prep, I definitely had a moment, and it was like embarrassing. It was, on a vacation with my family, and I like took myself to the emergency room again, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And so started working with my therapist again because I was kind of on and off, just making sure that I was like kind of like taking account my mental health. But I started working with her more regularly, and she was like, "I really do think you should consider medication." Um, and she's like, I have you as having an anxiety disorder based off of like the assessment and everything else." And so it was like, you know, hindsight, like I didn't want to go on medication at the time. um, I was also kind of just like, I can just ride this out. I can ride it out and I'll just wait to get through. And it was honestly very rough. Like it was rough. I started doing like coping mechanisms, like they tell you to hold ice and to ground yourself, to feel something outside, like stuff like that in the moment. Um, but I did end up after getting my pro card to go, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go. I'm like, this isn't these grounding techniques are awesome, but the stress of having panic attacks so frequently is yeah, it's very disruptive. So
Oh, definitely.
yeah, so, it's like one of those things where I think I wish I would have heeded that advice a little sooner. There is nothing wrong. I don't know why, for whatever, and not that I thought there was anything wrong with medication, but I just felt like, "Oh, I don't need it, like, I'm okay." But it's been night and day different, so, that was definitely something that happened during that prep and probably almost derailed me from finishing because I thought there was something severely wrong with me, so.
For sure. I mean, the fact that you sought the help and then you were open to that, even though originally you weren't, mental health treatment and then mental health medication is so powerful. It really can be. And I think it oftentimes gets demonized. And, as a mental health professional myself, what's interesting to me is to see how mental health diagnoses often coincide with another disorder of some sort. So, I'm going to take you to another vulnerable moment. Do you feel that when you were in high school, maybe you were coping with anxiety even back then with an eating disorder?
Totally. This isn't some people know this about me, but I definitely struggled with anorexia when I was in high school. I think they say that a lot of times eating disorders and depression, eating disorders and anxiety coincide with each other. And so, um, in a way, I think that that was probably a release, being able to be hyper controlling of my food at that time, um, allowed me to cope with symptoms of anxiety for sure. Um, I struggled when I was probably as early as, like, I remember going on my first diet at 10. I think a lot of girls can probably pinpoint something like that.
Yeah.
But then it probably wasn't a full-blown eating disorder until I was 13, 14. Struggled until I was about 17. Um, I did end up going to, like, a specialist, when I was 17 years old, and I don't know that it helped at the time, if I'm being completely honest.
Mhm.
Um, I honestly think it was, like, completely a act of a miracle for me to, kind of move beyond that stage of my life. And I think that sometimes bodybuilding can get a little bit of flack because of, again, hyperfixation on food. There are definitely some tendencies. I also think that that can be completely opposite at the same time because you don't do well in bodybuilding if you don't eat. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, for some level of it, like the conditioning side and the depletion side, like, yes, it can be somewhat reminiscent of or look like it, but what I always tell people is, like, what matters is the intention more than anything. So it's like in bodybuilding, the intention is to present our best, feel our best, like look our best, of course. Versus when you have a eating disorder, it's not coming from like this healthy place or this intention of eventually eating more and refueling and nourishing. There's just a different level to it. And you said that it was really a miracle that you got through it. So, how did your faith in God play a role in that journey? And then how did it influence your approach to fitness and nutrition, like post recovery?
yeah. Um, so I remember the day that I really do feel like something in me just kind of broke. So grew up in like a Christian household. We went to church. And I was going to the eating disorder specialist, and I remember there was one session where they brought both my parents in to talk about it. And when we left, I remember that next Sunday, my dad took me to his church, which it was kind of weird in that there was my mom's church and there was my dad's church. So we would usually go with my mom. My dad would, after at that point, he was actually coaching baseball. We were all involved in sports. So I would say that that fell off a little bit with Sunday baseball. And then he took me up to the altar actually, and I was the first time I saw my dad cry. And I got prayer. So I remember like after that, I really felt like this weight had been lifted off of me. So I'm not gonna say that like everything about anxiety just like completely just fell off of me at that time, but I do know that the hyper restriction to the point of like you almost like want to disappear, right? Like that's a lot of what happens with a eating disorder, or at least anorexia in particular. I will say that that's when I started to have a better relationship with food. I actually didn't even go to any more therapy sessions after that. But yeah, I just know for me, that was like a really pivotal turning point.
That is pivotal. And after that, I mean, it sounds like you stopped restricting, you started to nourish your body more. Um, how did your thoughts with food change? Like, how did you start to look at it to support that recovery?
Yeah. I don't know if it was as like active. I think in that moment, I was going off to college. I was like enjoying, well, at that time, I was like, became a senior. So I was like enjoying all the senior things. And I just felt like my relationship with food and listen, it wasn't easy because, even coming out of that, my metabolism was horrible. I put on a lot of weight really fast. Um, and then I remember going on a diet to almost correct it, but like in a very healthy way. I actually did all whole foods and I was like, oh, it was like weird. It was like an awakening and that like, wow, cherry tomatoes are so sweet naturally. Why am I reaching for something that was artificially sweetened? So I did that where I just focused on whole foods, and I think it was like a different relationship with food where it was like, wow, these are like, how amazing is it that like things that grow from the earth are just like so
Right.
delicious versus like something that's super artificial and processed. So I did go through a little bit of that to almost correct because my thyroid was shot after being, anorexic for so long. And so I definitely like I look back on my prom pictures, I'm like, oh, I was a little rolly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
but hey, I will say I was healthy and I was happy, and so
Yeah.
that's
That's awesome. And I think too, like it was a sign that your body just the beautiful thing about our bodies is it's always fighting to keep us alive. And so your body like showed up for you when you were restricting by staying there and pushing through that with you. And then it supported your growth after that. And even if that looked like excess weight gain, it was like fighting to keep you alive. And then post that, you were able to get to a healthier place. And now your body's still supporting you, which is so cool. And you've just transformed as far as like your entire approach and how you view things. It just sounds like it was a really um, amazing journey you had, even though there were some uncomfortable times.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I think after that, it was just like fitness and food were just ways to stay healthy. I wasn't overdoing it with the working out. I was still active and training. It's just kind of part of my routine. And so that's kind of what led me to competing later in my 20s. And I was like, I moved from New York during the pandemic and I had more time. I had a flexible mindset. I was like, hey, why not like set a goal again? And so that's when I was like, I'm gonna, tick this off my bucket list and try.
I could not miss the opportunity to invite listeners to something really, really incredible that I'll be doing. And I am so excited about it. I am hosting an intimate all-female retreat in Greenville, South Carolina from August 1st to the 4th, and there are only 3 spots left by the time you hear this. There may be less. So act on this now if you're looking for a chance to connect, grow, and recharge with like-minded women who share your love for bodybuilding and fitness, which is exactly why I am coming to you on this podcast to announce it and let you know that there are some spots open still. And if you want to spend a weekend with an incredible group of women, all about community, mindset, and movement, we're going to be diving into mental health in a way that applies directly to your fitness journey, enjoying the gym and coffee dates with women who really get you, and experience a private chef prepared meal that's going to satisfy what you need for your current nutrition goals and explore the beauty of nature with hikes and a downtown picnic and just enjoying the incredible scenery of where I live. It is beautiful here and I want to have you guys. Plus, I've got some surprises up my sleeve that you won't want to miss. If you come, you will also have access to a pool, pickleball courts, bocce ball, everything you need for a seamless stay because you'll be at my house and you'll have access to everything you need, like a fridge and microwave and stove. When we had some meetups last year, it was awesome, like so fun, which is why I decided to do another one this year, this August, and provide it in such a way where you have all your needs met so you can just focus on showing up for yourself inside and out and making the absolute most of your time there without it feeling like you're going to have to sacrifice any of your goals. Instead, we're going to be capitalizing on our time to get you even closer to the achievement of those goals. So if this sounds like exactly what you need, connecting with other like-minded women, forming lasting friendships, and of course, spending some much needed time on your mental health, as well as still getting in everything you need for your goals, message me for details at celeste@celestial.fit or celestial_fit on Instagram. So again, that's an email, celeste@celestial.fit, or you can DM me on Instagram at celestial_fit. Before the last spots fill up, I recommend messaging me ASAP because I cannot wait to see you there and have you. It will be incredible. If you have any questions at all, of course, feel free to reach out when you inquire. So awesome. And then look at you now. You went pro, you competed at the Tampa Pro. What was your feedback at the Tampa Pro and like what's been your focus, especially because you weren't planning on like you had said it was probably gonna be your last run at going pro. So I'm curious, like, are you still focusing on a family? Did you get feedback that's changed that goal? Like what's your focus?
Yeah. I mean, I was very surprised to place in my pro debut. I was honestly, I'm here to have fun. I have no expectations. Tampa's my hometown. I remember I was training with a personal trainer my last run at my pro card, and she was like, if you get your pro card, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing the Tampa Pro. I know it's like it's a well-run show, and it's also where my family could come and support. And so to, well, like a year from there, actually get a chance to go for it, that was a lot of fun. And I know James wanted me to get a little bit leaner from Universe. So I ended up dropping 4 more pounds from my my Universe weight. And it was almost like it was actually kind of funny because he was like, hold cardio. He was like, because at a certain point I just kept dropping. It was like, okay, now my body wants, of course, wants to like just keep
Your
dropping
body
it.
became a furnace, like,
Yeah,
all right, let's go.
exactly. And so it was a little too much by the time we got to the show. I was like the leanest I'd ever been. I was having glute striations. It was like all the things you kind of don't want anymore. And so I think the only thing I will say that like obviously getting more conditioned can definitely hurt you on the pro stage, but being not as conditioned can definitely like completely knock you out. And so I did end up getting 10th and it was so much fun. Actually, after Universe, I met another girl who won her class and we had worked out like that the next day, actually met up and we stayed in touch. And she was doing the Tampa Pro as well. So that was a lot of fun. Actually, Selena, who I think you've had.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool to be able to to go to that show, and she was there with her new team. And like, I mean, Issa was like, being coached by James, and so she was there. But yeah, I remember James being like, it's a good thing that Sandy's not at this show because you're way you're way too lean. But the feedback was just more everywhere. Definitely more glutes was what Attila had said. But Tyler said that he wanted to see more upper body fullness. I definitely think just being so lean at that point, everything was just a little flat. And but I definitely think I need more, way more muscle just at this level. So
Was he trying to feed you a lot at that show?
yeah, I had like, a whole thing of almond butter and um
Holy.
yeah. eh, One of my confessions actually has to do with this show, but I'll save it for the end.
Wait, I
But
want to
yes,
hear
eating a lot.
it. That's amazing. I want to hear that confession.
Oh, I ate a cookie in between pre-judging the final.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my
They,
God.
they had the stands, and I was like, that
At
cookie
that
looks
point,
really
you needed it
good.
though. They were telling you to fill out. You were like, I'm coming in. Don't worry.
The thing with that show that was a little so that we didn't know if we had made top 10 until literally being backstage. They called all the numbers right before you got on stage. And my
Oh,
dad,
at finals?
yeah, sorry, at
Oh,
finals.
that's interesting. So you got to wait all day and then find out.
Yeah. And so, I didn't have my family buy a finals ticket because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I made, like, I know I'm second call outs, but I don't know if I'm actually top 10 to go and do
Yeah.
my routine again. So don't buy a finals ticket. And then of course, like, I got the top 10, and then I was like trying to text them real quick, like, I'm going on now. And
Yeah.
so they ended up missing finals, but honestly, like it was just so cool to have them there, being in Tampa.
Absolutely. Like, I think it's great if they come to prejudging, they get to see all the like exciting things. And then, as cool as it would have been for them to be in the room, just the fact that they were there to celebrate with you after must have been so nice.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
That's amazing. And so now, I mean, you had said before you wanted to focus on your career and coaching and family. Like, what's going on? What are your life goals right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still training. Like I'm, a bikini competitor, so shoulders and glutes. But
Mhm.
um I think that I just know that I don't plan on getting on stage this year. I just think that, hey, my body was screaming at me that it needed a break. It was a tough prep. And I think I just want to respect that a little bit. So even working with my naturopathic doctor, like just to try and bring up some of the markers in my body that were showing like inflammation, cortisol, all those things, trying to get those in a better spot before I'm like considering getting onto stage again. And so I know that takes time, and yes, it's so fun to look at everyone like in prep and like follow their journeys, but I can follow along and eat my cookie this week.
Exactly. But really, though, like that's so true. And like when you take the time to recover and focus on nourishing your body and lifting, like all the things I think just really fall into place and more of like it's hard to call it a lifestyle season or improvement because it's really an improvement season even if you don't like have this like, oh, this is my next thing. Um,
100%.
because as competitors, I feel like once you've been in this long enough, your lifestyle is still like my stepson the other day, he's so cute. He's like, "Did you eat dinner yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had chicken and green beans." And he's like, "Thought you could eat whatever you want now. You just did a show." And I was like, "This is what I want to eat." And also, even after shows, like I'm still gonna probably be eating this way with just a little bit more variety and flexibility. I was like, plus I got two more shows. He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And but I like for me, it's an opportunity to teach him and teach others who don't know like about that nutrition and about the lifestyle. Like when you do this, you really want to nourish your body for function and performance, and the body's the bonus.
Yeah, totally. It's like definitely a lifestyle, and I don't even think it should be just a lifestyle for people who compete. I think that for the most part, we eat like nutritious whole meals that a doctor would recommend, and that should actually be
Yeah,
the norm. Not
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So, I definitely eat like this year round, just with some flexibility and being able
Yeah.
to, let loose a little bit every once in a while.
For sure. Now, I think something that makes you very relatable to not just people listening, but also like your clients and the people you work with is you also work a corporate job. So, how do you navigate your schedule and the demands of your day, even like time off requests, with when you're in season? How do you navigate all of that?
Yeah. No, and I'm not gonna even like pretend that it's easy. I think the next step will be I would like having children and navigating living the lifestyle as well. Is because I honestly I don't even want to like front like I know what that's like to okay, I gotta take the kids to school, but then I need to do my cardio and I need to prep their lunch and my meal, and oh my God, like hats off to all the moms and dads
I
that
don't know
are
how they do it.
being um
Amazing.
but I will say that working, you just have to get like so like dialed in on your time management. It will take sacrifice. Like it's not going to be like this because some people will ask like, "Oh, how do you do it all?" And I'm like, I say no to things. That's just the reality. My social life sucks in prep, so um, and that's just like I'm just being very picky and choosy, and also just kind of knowing what you can and can't be up for. Like, the one thing about my job, so I do work for Red Bull. We do some pretty crazy events. And so, um, it takes a lot of logistical planning to make sure that, like, I can get it all in because I will be at a hotel in the middle of the desert where I have a 30-minute off-road trek into the venue, out. I gotta be there before 6 AM. So, I mean, there are some days I'm up really early getting it in, and I just also know that getting up that early, I am probably not gonna have the energy to do things later. So I have to try and maximize the time during the day so I don't have any leftover things to have to be awake for in the evening, or I'm just gonna throw everything off. And so I just like honestly, I'm just like so like focused on trying to get the stuff done when I can because it's like the time is just so limited. And so that's like another thing when people are like, well, there's 24 hours in a day. I'm like, well, do you sleep? Like
Exactly.
and just like I don't know. When you are have like deadlines and you have like things to do, like the time just you just realize how little of it you have. And I think that I probably sacrifice certain aspects more than probably other people are willing to, unfortunately. And I know, hey, coming out of a prep, like it's time to now nurture my relationship with my husband. It's time to like plan that vacation with family and stuff like that. So you just have to know that. And I guess like that's like communicating with people around you, like, hey, I'm going to be really focused here because I can't do it all, and when you try to do it all, that's when, like, you're gonna do everything at 5%. So,
Mm, that's a really good point. So, that being said, I mean, that right there was just great advice, but what would be your best advice for somebody who's never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for somebody who is on their road to pro?
I would say best advice for someone who's never competed before is honestly go in there with no expectations and just have fun. Do this for you. You wanted to step on stage and kind of show off your hard work and kind of prove to yourself that you can do it, and do keep that in mind the whole time. I think there's like almost so much advice out there for new competitors that you start to worry about like all these other things. Like, I mean, I think I went into my first show and I didn't know, well, what's a peak week, like, and whereas maybe a little bit more knowledge than that, I think would be helpful. I do think that like getting into the minutia of like all the bodybuilding terms and phrases and optimizing. Honestly, like, who cares? Go and have fun. And then if you decide that you want to pursue this a little bit more seriously, then you can start to educate yourself on all that minutia that will start to matter at the next level.
Yeah, I love that. And then what about for that person who's trying to go pro?
It might take a little bit more than you think, to go pro. And so being ready to know that and to feel like you might need to push yourself a little harder than you thought you might, or if you're not ready to do that, recognize that for yourself and realize that, hey, you might just not accomplish it if you're not willing to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, how can people follow your journey, connect with you, inquire about working with you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Curia underscore IFBB Pro. I am taking lifestyle and starting to take competition clients. I was very particular about how many competition clients I will take, but I would love to help everyone on their fitness journey.
That's awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you find how to connect with us, but you're also going to see a full summary of the topics we covered, a bulleted list of those topics. You're going to see episode timestamps so you can go back and listen to your favorite parts or share it with friends, family, teammates, let them know what resonated with you. And of course, tag us if you listened and you loved it. Let us know. It goes a long way for the show, but even more for the athletes and myself. Your support and listening means a lot. And we get to shine light on these incredible women who come on the show. And hopefully, those of you who are listening, maybe you'll be on the show one day and the support goes so far. So, all of that being said, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.